Hello and welcome, everyone. So great to see everybody here. Great evening here. Sun was super bright here a second ago. Looks like it's going through behind the clouds. Might have to get some more light going in a second, but welcome. It looks like our chat is open. Love for everybody to chat and let us in and let us know where you're coming in from. That'd be awesome. And welcome. This is week 5 of our 5-part series in, breaking free, healing from Lyme disease, for Lyme disease awareness a month. Really excited to be here. This is one of my favorite episodes that we're going to have. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got Minnesota and Illinois. Awesome. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, cool. Rainy Kentucky. I am in exceptionally hot Park City, Utah. So I talked to some people in Connecticut today too, and they were certainly experiencing a little bit of rain. There's West Hartford, Connecticut. All right. And we've got New Fairfield, Sydney, Australia. Thanks for joining us from all the way across the other side of the world. Actually, really excited to see everyone this evening. Almost missed San Diego in there. Happy to have you from San Diego as well. And holy moly. And we've got Alaska, back to Australia, Virginia. Yeah, lots of Australia. We actually saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers last night. I think Flea, the bassist, is Australian, but certainly, we had a good time with the family. It's always nice to go out and get some fresh air and do some really cool things. So tonight, I think we're in for a really big treat. This is, like I've been saying, one of my favorite things for us to do, and I'm going to dive right on in. And, good, we're small, so let's fix this up. It's always good. It's supposed to zoom right in, but clearly it's not working today, so we'll get this fixed in one sec. It's a funny thing. You set these things up, and they're all perfectly ready to go, and it's the same stuff we've used every time. And then it decides to go do something different once you hit the live button. But that's kind of the fun of all this, I guess, is that we get to monkey around a little bit and get this dialed, and then we'll be able to get going and hopefully see everything perfectly, and this will be a lot of fun. Can't say that I've ever had the window need to be on the top left to be mostly centered for you guys, even though you can see a little bit of the background there. So let's see if we can get it a little bit dialed in there, and I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to go back here. One of the things we're really talking about in our 5-part series is just kind of like, the progression from tick bites to acute Lyme to chronic Lyme. And then really one of the parts we left off on with the kind of the place where we look at those sort of more advanced protocols is how do we actually break free from Lyme? We talked a lot in the last couple of weeks about those, the medications and the herbs and all the new research and all these cutting edge things. But then what else about the biggest thing here is like this fight, flight, or freeze mechanism is really one of those things that is challenging because you get in this state because of chronic illness, but Lyme itself can potentially cause that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And as a reminder, if anybody's tech savvy and interested in supporting our YouTube channel. Everybody's been doing it every week and really helping us get the word out. We got to get those watch hours up. Because that's one more piece we need in addition to subscribers to get our reach out there. And so one of the things, if you don't mind and you have a minute, just pop over the links in the chat. That way we can see over on YouTube and we can get some of those hours up that we're spending together and use that as credit in our YouTube viewership so that we're able to get this in front of more people. Because that's the most important thing for me is like the more people we can reach, the more people we can prevent Lyme for. If they get acute Lyme, we can help prevent that from becoming chronic. And if they do get chronic, they really need to hear about this. So if we can all do that together, I really appreciate it. So thanks so very much. And then let's see there. Here we go. So we're going to dive right in tonight to that breaking free session. As a reminder, this is for information and educational purposes only. Take any of the ideas you have back to your treating clinician and talk to them about that. And if you're not already my patient, this certainly doesn't make us a doctor-patient relationship. But if you ever need us, we're certainly happy to talk to you and see if we're a good fit. We can help out. Myself, Dr. Jess Montavo, Dr. Jill, we're all over at originsofhealth.com if you need us. And as a quick recap, we sort of already talked about this briefly, but we did this roadmap where we started with tick bites on week 1, prevention, prophylaxis. Then we moved into, really getting beyond that bite. What do we do if we do get acute Lyme? How do we recognize it? How do we test for it? How do we treat it? And then the last 2 weeks, we've really talked about the chronic challenge and sort of chronic Lyme, chronic tick-borne co-infections, and then the cutting edge care. How do we take our approaches to chronic Lyme disease and really blend that with all of the emerging research, both for medications, herbs, and then combinations, and both the lab research as well as the clinical research of people like we highlighted last week, like Dr. Ken Ligner and Dr. Richard Horowitz. So this is like really kind of where we went. And this is all sort of the nuts and bolts and the sort of like the physical mechanics of it. But one of the challenges, like I mentioned, is that we get stuck in this fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. So really excited to share that with you tonight. And a lot of people have heard about this thing called polyvagal theory from Dr. Stephen Porges. And he's a researcher who looked into this and he said, look, most of what we're learning about is fight, flight, or freeze, right? Or excuse me, fight or flight, and that's what we call sympathetic. And then social engagement is kind of like the parasympathetic. So fight or flight is, hey, I'm sitting around the campfire, saber-toothed tiger jumps out, and I'm either going to feel like I am strong enough to win. I'm going to turn and I'm going to fight that saber-toothed tiger. Or on the other side, I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to beat up this saber-toothed tiger. But one of the things that I can do is I can run, and I'm pretty sure I can get away, right? So fight or flight in that sympathetic mechanism really is sort of the important piece to remember is it requires you to believe, or at least your nervous system to believe that you can win, right? Because what about if you're fighting, you're trying to run away from saber-toothed tiger or whatever, and then this happens, right? We've all seen this happen, outside in the neighborhood. A chipmunk or a mouse gets caught by a cat. So now we don't have the ability to fight and we don't have the ability to flight. So what is the best thing for us to do? And we know from the chipmunk and the mouse, the best thing to do is to freeze, right? To play dead. Because if we play dead, the cat often gets bored, drops us, and then the little rodent scampers off, right? So this is one of those mechanisms that really I wasn't taught in medical school. And a lot of people, when they think about sympathetic and parasympathetic, they think of it simply as like sympathetic is you're stressed out, parasympathetic is you're chill and you're healing and you're sleeping, right? But that's really not the case. And Dr. Porges really pulled this out and he really highlighted this freeze state. And one of the important parts is I made this chart based upon his work is that we have to think about what it means. So when we're in fight or flight, we've got that rage or panic, we've got anger or fear, we've got irritation or worry, but all of those things have energy, right? And that's really an important piece. They all have, you're putting a bit of energy into your system. You still have enough energy to do something, right? Like you're pissed off, you've got the energy. But what about when you're stuck, right? And that's that top left there. You feel hopeless, helpless. You start to get numb to things around you. You might actually physically feel numb, and then you start to really shut down. And really, what's important to look at here too is what happens, right? And we'll talk about dorsal and ventral vagus in a minute. But in this parasympathetic mode, you get a lot more endorphins and it numbs the pain. You'll see people who have been chronically ill or people who have been traumatized, they're going to look down. They're not going to talk really with a lot of, they're not even going to make eye contact. It's very hard for me to do because it's against my nature, but it's a withdrawal from that social behavior, and even just by me mimicking it, putting my eyes down, lowering my head, trying to talk in that slower, like withdrawn mode, I was forgetting what I was trying to say, right? And that's what happens, right? So, and they have these blank facial expressions. And the problem is they start to, over time, more and more withdraw from social behaviors. And all of this leads to a decreased immune system function and a decreased immune reaction. And so now we see that a decreased immune response can happen in chronic sympathetic overload, but that's going to continue here. And in my experience, it's actually going to get a bunch worse. Now, most of my people are going to be fluctuating between these two states, right? I mean, and it's certainly like it's not like they never get into this parasympathetic, like the kind of the traditional joy and compassion and being present, but they're going to spend more and more time here. And over the time of chronic illness, in the beginning, maybe they spent more fight or flight energy, but then they're going to be kind of more stuck and feeling like they don't have any hope. So part of what we have to think about is this part of the dorsal and ventral vagus. So ventral vagus means kind of the front. It's the vagus nerve that goes down to the heart, and then it's wrapped in myelin, so it's very well insulated. Dorsal vagus is more towards the back, and what's often referred to as the subdiaphragmatic vagus. So it's things that go below the diaphragm. Here's the challenge. This is less myelinated. It's more old, it's older in our nervous system's development. But one of the challenges is we have the solar plexus. We have the gut that gets the innervation from this vagus nerve. So all this information from the vagus going down to our gut and coming back is on this old pathway. And one of the challenges that we run into is that down in our gut there, that's 70, 80% of our immune cells, right? A huge organ of detoxification. And we're using this very primitive system. So we really need to be aware of this and work on it. But the other part that's important is all this stuff you see over here, this is not only where you want to be most of your time and spend little time up in these, but if you're stuck in one of these often, these are also clues to how to get back into this area. So maybe Lyme might have knocked you into up here, but you can do some of these and you can choose to engage in these social activities and create moments for these, for both presence, for openness and curiosity, as well as the emotions of joy, compassion, and gratitude. And that will start to move you back towards staying in this state, which means your gastrointestinal function will be better, immune function will be better. Lo and behold, we're going to improve our resilience and resistance to infection, and we're going to bring down our defensiveness, right? So that's meaning, like, think about mast cell activation. We have so many people who are locked in this state where they're like constantly on guard, and their nervous system is freaking out and mast cells are overactive trying to protect them. They're hyper vigilant. We want vigilant. We don't want hyper vigilant. We want defensive, but not hyper defensive, or I should say appropriately defensive. So this is really where this comes in. And one of the parts about the ventral vagus that's so important, and this is really kind of talking about our entire immune system in general, is if you can't realize that you're safe, you're not going to be able to heal. So in tonight's session, I'm going to give you a little bit more of the background of how this works. Along the way, I'm going to give you a couple of little quick tips and tricks of things that you can do to start allowing your body to recognize you're safe and begin healing. And then we're going to do a session where you can really put it all into action. And one of the reasons I think this is so important is through the work of Dr. Bransfield and Dr. Donta, we know that Lyme does change metabolism in the brain. And we're looking at a SPECT scan, looking at metabolism. We're looking at areas of the brain in blue that can be negatively affected by Lyme. And what Dr. Porges tells us is we have to be able to understand the cues of safety, including facial expressivity, intonation, and gesture. And so one of the things that's happening here with gesture that's really so, interesting to me is that all of these are noticed in the brain in one or more of these areas that light up blue in Lyme disease brain, right? And so the blue is areas of lower metabolism, of lower function. And this is like the conundrum, right? Lyme can get you started down this fight, flight, freeze pathway. And then and then chronic illness and just chronic being sick for a long time can also cause it. So you kind of got this double whammy of being stuck there. And then the challenge is you got to get out of this in order to get better, right? So then we have to start using those clues and starting to work with facial expression, intonation, gesture, and the like in order to train and remind the nervous system that it is safe and you can heal. And really a lot of this happens in the temporal lobes, right? And one of the quotes, I love this quote because by itself it doesn't really mean much, right? The inability to read cues is a function of your physiologic state. But think about this. This is literally Dr. Porges saying that one of the reasons that people are sick and can't get out of their own way oftentimes is not because they made crap up or they're just lazy. It's because there's a physiological change in their body, in this case Lyme disease and friends, that actually is causing them to get stuck. So this is the challenge here, right? We know that we're not making this up. We know that people are suffering. We know that Lyme could be one of the triggers of this physiological state from two perspectives. One is chronicity of feeling like crap. The other one is directly by changing brain metabolism and function within the brain. So we have our work cut out for us, but we can do this, right? And one of the places to really start here is looking at heart rate variability. A lot of people know I've, forever used an Oura ring and more recently been using a Whoop around my wrist because it gives me more flexibility in my lifestyle and in working out and playing outside. And really what heart rate variability is, though, is talking about the functional status of our autonomic nervous system. And it really is telling us a lot about sort of parasympathetic nervous system. So we go into sympathetic when we need to, like a little puppy runs out in front of our car. We're driving, we swerve and we protect the puppy. We don't hit it. We don't hit any people. Heart's beating, eyes, pupils are dilated, a little bit of sweat, but then we relax, right? That's a sign of a healthy nervous system. And that's really what we want to do. Then, when we have this optimal heart rate variability, it reflects this ability to not only have a healthy autonomic nervous system, but of our self-healing, self-regulatory mechanism is optimized. It's also a sign of optimal emotional resilience, which I'm sure a lot of us could do, especially with social interaction. So one of the things that we need to do to get out of that freeze state and that social withdrawal is to feel comfortable socially. So the higher our heart rate variability is, the more likely we're going to be able to handle the new changes of interacting with our environment in sort of our new healthy way, or we're becoming healthy way rather than our sick way. And it's also going to show that we're more adaptable and resilient. We're going to be more adaptable and resilient to stress, to infection, but also these social interactions and these mental emotional stressors. So we're going to really, heart rate variability, when you optimize it, really is a great treatment, body, mind, and spirit. And too little is considered age-related depletion. And I think this is a bunch of crap. I think this is like our heart rate variability goes down as we age because nobody told us to work on it. And we have cumulative load of toxins over time and of stress. But maybe there's a little decrease, but you can really keep it pretty damn high if you do the work. Because also we know that if you have pathology, if you have infection, if you have chronic stress of a high level, it will bring this down. And essentially the biggest challenge is it shows an inadequate functioning of our self-regulatory mechanism. And that's really one of the biggest challenges in Lyme. This is a really cool study from 2014 where they showed that basically respiratory modulation, or breath controlling the cardiac vagal tone, so breath controlling your heart rate, and the vagus nerve helps calm the heart down, bring the heart rate down. That is something that's impaired by Lyme. Right. And so basically what these researchers found was they thought that Lyme disease could directly and negatively affect the vagus nerve, both directly with the nerve or in the brainstem in the areas that lead to the function of the vagus nerve. So this is where we're talking about limbic retraining, amygdala retraining, all these like primal trust and all these things, and all this vagus nerve stimulation and this and that is one of the reasons we need it in Lyme, is that Lyme messes this up. So, but we get clues, right? Breathing controls the cardiac vagal tone. Lyme may impair it, but we're still breathing. And one of the few things in our entire body that we can control, in fact, the only autonomic function that we have partial volitional control over, is breathing. So we can do breath work and different approaches to breathing that can optimize heart rate variability and improve our cardiac vagal tone. And if we're improving cardiac vagal tone, we're improving all vagal tone. And that's really one of the most important pieces for healing. So then the next step here, or I should say really the first step to how to implement this, is to say, hey, what's your normal respiratory rate? Well, by the book, it's most adults, it's 12 to 20 times per minute. Most even adults that I know are breathing faster. So one of the things we can do to start working with this heart rate variability is to do what's called 5.5, 5.5 breathing. And essentially, we inhale for 5.5 seconds, we exhale for 5.5 seconds, and then we'll breathe about 5.5 seconds per minute. So this is pretty straightforward and easy, right? So we just count. We go inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1, and inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what's so beautiful about this is most people will find that that's not too hard. But you've just decreased your respiratory rate by a factor of at 50%, upwards of 150 to 200%, which is remarkable. And one of the reasons that I really care about that is that this study here in 2017 showed right around here, 6 beats per minute is the optimal respiratory frequency for maximal heart rate variability. So if you just go back and this is all you do, 5-10 minutes a day, you just breathe. And, you know, for me, does it have to be 5.5? Could it be 6? Could it be 7? Sure. The point is, if you slow your breathing down just a little bit, you're going to do a couple of things. And the first thing is you're going to increase your heart rate variability. Some of the other things you're going to do is bump up carbon dioxide, and nitric oxide. So we're going to have anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety effects. And we're also going to have vasodilation. So our blood vessels are going to open up. We're going to help fix things like circulation in the brain, the heart, the fingers, and the toes. We can address things like Raynaud's. We can improve detoxification as well as oxygen and nutrition delivery to the cells. But what's the key to all this, right? So it's okay. I think it's nice for me to go, hey, why don't you breathe 5.5 times in, 5.5 times out, and sit there and do that for 5 or 10 minutes a day, right? That's great, Dr. Tom, but you know, where are we really going with this, right? And the key to supercharging this is this thing called gratitude. So when you look at the work of the HeartMath Institute, one of the things they have people do is breathe and just breathe into your chest. And just notice that your chest is expanding and contracting. And you guys can all do this right as we're talking about it. So expanding and contracting. Our air is whatever it is, with the center of your chest, the muscles, you know, the pull. But notice that the breath is going into your chest. Some people feel it go down their nose, down their throat, into their chest and open up. Other people can even visualize it's going directly into your chest. But get yourself your focused on the center of your heart, in the center of the chest. And then think about someone or something you love, whether it's an animal, it's a friend, a partner, a child. It just something, and it could be something that you used to be able to do that you can't wait to do again, something that you do now that you really, really love, or something you know that you're going to be doing when you're well that really gets you going. But we want fire, right? We want something that we're really grateful for, and feel that love, feel that gratitude in the center of your heart as you're breathing. That is a way that they achieve a thing they call quick coherence. Coherence leads to heart rate variability, right? Or it essentially is. So when your heart is coherent, you have increased heart rate variability. So now let's double down. Let's spend 5.5 seconds breathing in and 5.5 seconds breathing out, all the while holding that image of that loved one or loved thing that you're so passionate about in the center of your heart. and really just feel that. Because if you wore a monitor like a Whoop or an Oura Ring, or you had the Inner Balance program from HeartMath, which I use with a lot of people, where you can see real-time heart rate variability, your heart rate variability goes way up. If you're using something like I said, like the Whoop, you're going to see chronically when you do this for several, 5-6 days a week, every week for a couple of weeks, you're going to start to see your heart rate variability creeping up on, kind of your average heart rate variability. This is a super powerful approach. And one of the things I want you to be aware of, and something that we're going to work with a little later on, so I wanted to throw it out there now so you can start thinking about it, is in the movie The Secret, and in so many other areas, Bob Proctor, who is one of the sort of the premier, teachers of mindset and, how to create, the life that you want of the 20th century, who just died last year. And I had the great fortune of studying with him in his programs for years, and really changed my life both personally and professionally. But he said, what you think about, you bring about. And so neuroscientists are talking about this all the time. Just about everybody who thinks about, your mindset and healing knows this phrase. And whether Bob was the first guy who said it or not, I'm not sure. When I look it up, it looks like he is, but certainly he's the guy who made it, most commonplace. It's really important to understand what you focus most on, you bring more of in your life. Whether you like it or not, it's a truth. And what's interesting for me is Dr. Bob Proctor, who was not a doctor, said, hey, look, the law of attraction is a secondary law. The primary law is the law of vibration, right? So we want to be resonating and vibrating with the frequency of the things we want. And then they're attracted to us. And one of the quotes I really love is from Wallace Wattles. He was around in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and he said, hey, look, this whole thing, by the things that we truly want, we will towards ourselves, we will attract them to us by thought. But it's through action that we receive them. So not only do we have to be careful about what we're thinking about, but we have to take action. And we have to take action in helping our heart rate variability, in doing sort of exercise that's appropriate for our level of health, changing our diet as appropriate, taking our supplements, whatever it might be, our medication protocol. But the simple thing, and that so many people leave on the table, is this ability to use your breath to regulate this, and then getting into controlling heart rate variability with breath and passion, or gratitude, aka love, and then focusing more on what you want than what you don't want. Because I can guarantee you there is no way you can think yourself out of the hell of chronic Lyme. I've been there. I never forgot how shitty I felt. But the key change for me, if you ever listen to me tell the story, was I was looking at a blank wall again for the second time, and I remember that path right over there, and that path is the path I kept going down, and I knew that if I kept doing the same thing, I was going to be in the same place. I didn't want that result. So I was like, oh, that path over there looks different. I think I'm going to go for it because I believe in me. And that to me is the most important piece. Is I didn't say I wasn't going to do the things on that path. I just wasn't going to follow the same path. So I had a backpack of medications and supplements that went on a different hike with me. And I did the work, but I chose to focus on other things because I knew that I felt like crap. I didn't have to remind myself. In fact, I had to get out of the habit of reminding myself. And when I did, that's when everything changed, right? And it seems like, oh, overnight, oh, you got the yoga DVD was handed to you. Oh, you did this and that and that. There are all of these mysterious coincidences, right? The last minute, I was able to get a change in my medical school rotation that allowed me to go to the people to study osteopathic manipulation. Turns out they were treating Lyme disease and doing osteopathic cranial work. So it's kind of a coincidence, right? No, it was, I decided to double down on me and rewrite my life. I decided to write a new story. I wasn't forgetting about anything that was really happening. I wasn't neglecting anything, but I just said, I do not want that outcome. So I'm going to try to get a different one. And the second I decided that I was worth getting a different outcome, that's when everything changed. So that which you think about, you bring about. And now let's bring this kind of full circle here, get a little more sciencey for a minute, because I love doing things like that. this is a study of mice, right? Down here on the x-axis here is reactive oxygen species exposure. So free radicals, just, kind of all the oxidative things. So a lot of people take antioxidants to minimize this ROS exposure. And typically, the hypothesis of the researchers was that if we have this linear response, right? So meaning the higher the reactive oxygen species exposure, the more the mice are going to die. But what they found was that actually there was a bit of stress that actually made the body do better, right? So they didn't, in fact, they did the opposite of died. They thrived. They were feeling worse. They were stressing themselves out, just like I did on my mountain bike ride this afternoon before we hopped on this call. I was pushing it, right? My little thing on my wrist told me that I was insane, right? I'm in these crazy zones. I was near max heart rate and all this. But it was a stressor. And let's look at it a slightly different way, because I think it's a little easier. Let's look at benefit versus the stressor. And the stressor, the dose of your stressor is really your duration and intensity of the stressor. So if we have the right duration and intensity of stressor, as it's going up, we start to see we actually do better. But then we start to slide down. But all under here is a thing we call hormesis. So that's like if you don't use it, you lose it, right? And so one of the things that's so interesting here is you literally cannot heal. In fact, a human being will fall apart if they don't use themselves. So we do need to do some things. And when I looked in the literature, because I'll get back to that in 1 second. The problem is if you push too hard, the stress is too long, or it's too much of a duration of an intensity, you fall below here from benefit and you go into what we call toxicity. So that got me thinking. First of all, two main things. One, what is the top here before we start to slide down? Is there anybody who's looked at what is the maximum, sort of hormetic dose, right? And there were over 1,500 medical papers looking at this. And above your baseline stressor, to heal and improve and to have the body grow and recover, the optimal stressor is about 20 to 30% over your baseline. So that sounds like a lot, right? To some people, other people are like, that's not that much. But let's say you're walking a mile, right? You've worked up, you walked a mile. If you want to push yourself, you could walk a mile and 2/10, right? And 2/10 more of a mile probably isn't that much. Whereas 100% increase would be going from 1 mile to 2 mile overnight. So it's really not that much. And it's like if you're taking 10 steps because, maybe you're recovering from a knee surgery or you sprained your ankle playing around or something. It's literally you do 10 steps, then you do 11, then you do 12. And right around 12, maybe 13 steps is probably the optimal stress. And then you take a break and you recover, and then you do it again. But it's not a lot, but you need to do it. And the other thing that I found that's so interesting here is, so we have this orange line here, right? On the way up, we're getting benefit, benefit, benefit. But then at some point, we're still in the area of benefit, but we're starting to see diminishing returns. And the challenge that happens right here is that, we start to see less effective treatments. We start to see people are slipping and sliding. People are saying all the time, I was doing great, then I'm doing worse. So my question is really, is this a lack of efficacy? Is this like, hey, my treatment protocol is no longer working? Or is it that our treatment protocol is pushing too hard because we think the doses all need to be high? So now if you go back to what I said about last week about not being a lemming with these super high doses, part of it is just what is the pharmacology of the medicine you're using? What is the research? The other part is this is how the body functions. There's so much research on hormesis. So we don't want to push too hard because then we start sliding. And then people usually right around here, the protocol's wrong. We got to switch our protocol. We got to quadruple down on our detox. We got to do more or whatever. I'm like, maybe it's too much. Back down a little and just see if you slide back to here. And really our goal is to hang out right there. And so one of the questions I'm going to ask you, or I'm going to ask you two right now. One is, do you need to be uncomfortable to heal? This kind of just told you the answer to that, right? This blue area. The other thing is, I meant to say when we were looking at Bob for a second there, what is the one thing, if you could choose one thing that you could have, what would that be? and don't say get better from Lyme, right? Because that's like, what does that mean? What are you going to do when you're better from Lyme? Like if your joints felt phenomenal, your brain worked great, you had no pain, you had tons of energy, your gut worked. What is that thing that you want to do? And just let that mull that over in your mind, and more importantly, mull that over in your heart. Not a label, not what you want to get rid of, but what is that thing that you truly want to do? Now, you do several things, but let's focus on one to start with, right? And we're going to come back to that because we're going to use that in just a moment in our healing session. So one of the other parts when we talk about breathing and also stressors, hormesis, is how do we get to this thing called autophagy, right? And autophagy is intracellular cleanout and recycling. And one of the things that's the holy grail in chronic infection treatment, especially with Lyme and friends, is that these organisms love to hide out inside of cells. It's really hard for us to get in there and do damage to them. So why don't we take over and let the body do it? I have other slides that show, hey, autophagy, I can do fasting, I can do exercise, I can, do cold exposure to a lesser degree heat and promote autophagy. But look at this one. Hypoxemia or hypoxia, right? Just a little bit lower oxygen, and you can promote this. And I just told you, I can slow your breathing down a little bit, and you're going to have better heart rate variability. So you're going to have better immune function, better resilience, and then you're also going to start cleaning out your cells. So let's think about this. So many people now know what this pulse ox is, right? Everybody wants the SpO2, like your oxygen saturation, to be 99 or greater, right? Well, do we really need that? So I looked at the work of Dr. Buteyko, who was an aerospace physician in Russia, but he basically was able to fix things like anxiety and asthma after he realized that people who do a lot of deep breathing end up with higher oxygen saturations. People who breathe more lightly have more modest oxygen saturations. They're not like super low, but they're also not pinned to the ceiling. We also see that chronic deep breathing leads to chronic sympathetic arousal. And one of his feelings was that we were, as a society, generally people were chronically over breathing. And so what's really interesting about that is a light breath, one that's maybe you're filling your lungs up a bit, but you're not doing the like type of thing that everybody's teaching you. You're going to be in a more healthy parasympathetic state. Just a reminder, and then you should be breathing in and out of your nose when we're breathing as well. But the big reminders, number one is the nose. Number two is that when we're doing this, we're not talking about when we're doing a specific exercise designed to harness certain parts of the immune system and the nervous system and use breathing in order to stimulate them. That's a treatment. That's what we're going to do in a little bit. But on a regular basis, we'd prefer to be, breathing more lightly. And you really should, if you're next to somebody who's not somebody who just finished exercising, you should never hear them breathe, right? So chronic overbreathing can lead to loss of resilience, inflammation, and pain. How many people out there listening would like to have less inflammation and pain, right? So slow our breathing down. And we can decrease anxiety because when we slow our breathing down, our carbon dioxide goes up, and that's a natural Xanax. And we also get, if we overbreathe, we're fatigued, and if we breathe more lightly, we have greater energy. And not to get all crazy here, but this is an important thing. This is the Bohr effect, or the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. Just to get a little nerdy for a second. One of the things is that we see that on the left here, as our carbon dioxide is lower, our affinity for oxygen is higher. And what that means in English is if you have low carbon dioxide in your blood, aka when you're over breathing, because what basically happens is most people who do not have emphysema or another chronic lung disease will breathe on high carbon dioxide levels, not low oxygen levels. So the most human beings are breathing because they get high CO2 levels, right? And so the thing is, if you can't tolerate higher CO2 levels, you're breathing rapidly. Challenge here is your red blood cells look like they have a 98, 99 pulse ox, but when they get to the cellular level, to the tissues, they cannot give the oxygen to the tissues as effectively. So you got more oxygen in your blood, but you got less oxygen at your tissue level. So if we go over here and we bump up our carbon dioxide level at PCO2 here, we have a decreased affinity for oxygen. So maybe our oxygen saturation is 96, 97, we're breathing a little slower, but at a cellular level, we're dumping way more oxygen to those tissues, which is what we need to nourish them, to clean them, and to be able to have the body functioning properly. And most of us had learned that CO2 is a waste product, right? And we talked about number one here. I told you a little bit about CO2 for that normal human being is the driver of respiration, right? And so then we see that if we get CO2, we get more dilation of blood vessels, so we get better flow of not only oxygen, but the blood in, so more nutrients. We're also getting more toxins out. We're going to regulate our blood pH better. So many people keep talking about, oh, I want to be more alkaline. Well, the best way to become more alkaline is to breathe properly and allow your body to naturally balance out your pH, and again, regulation of anxiety. We can do this by, one, slowing down our breathing a little, and then also training a little intermittent hypoxia. And to show you how easy this is and how effective this is and how little you actually need to do to see the benefit is there's a slow breathing program that was trialed in schools. They took kids 5 minutes 3 times per week. So they did a grand total of breathing exercises for a whopping 15 minutes a week, right? So to me, if you don't have 15 minutes a week to sit down and do a slow breathing program, you don't want to get better, right? It's just a fact. These guys did it a little differently than I would do it, but pretty close, right? They did 5 minutes where they inhaled for 5, they held the breath for 5, then they did a slow exhale for 10, and then they did another hold for 5 seconds, and they just repeated that for 5 minutes. So if you've ever heard of box breathing, that's where you would do 5 in, 5 hold, 5 out, 5 hold. They're just kind of souping it up a little, and I'll tell you more about this one and why they might have done that in just a moment. But what they found after 6 weeks is the long-term trait of anxiety was significantly decreased, right? And then immediately followed, which is great, because now they're treating these kids' anxiety. They did an entire hour and a half over 6 weeks of breathing, and their anxiety went down. Immediately following the breathing, they saw short-term changes in anxiety and also decreased in most weeks, but not all weeks, statistically significant improved response when they were exposed to a physiological stressor, essentially increasing their carbon dioxide. But even at rest, they notice a decrease in respiratory volume and respiratory volume and respiratory rate with improvements in carbon dioxide tolerance. 15 minutes a week in 5-minute chunks. I would suggest you do this 6 to 7 nights a week for 5 minutes at bedtime so you sleep better, but then you're going to bring down the respiratory rate. You don't have to focus on it. So where I go back here and I talk about all this fun stuff, you don't even have to think about it. It just naturally happens, right? Because let's make this easy. A lot of what's been happening in Lyme is hard. And then here's one of the reasons why I think they added in that 10-second rather than just doing the full box at 5, 5, 5, 5, is if we go inspiration to expiration ratio. So we had 2 to 4, so 2 in, 4 out, 4 in, 8 out, something of that nature. We're going to promote a focus more on the nervous system transitioning to more of a parasympathetic state. It's very helpful to do before bed. It's very helpful to do in the middle of the night if you wake up and you happen to be, feeling, for whatever reason, and you have some insomnia. It improves your digestion and it decreases anxiety. So that's like, you could do in for 3, out for 6, in for 3, out for 6. Now, if you start doing something like a 4-4, meaning 4 in, 4 out, or 8 in, 8 out, that's more when you want to get in this flow and coherence state, right? So this is kind of more you're about to, do some real, mental work, or you're getting together, you're going out on a date and you want to be totally focused. You've got time with your kids that you don't have a lot of time. So prep yourself with 5 minutes of 1-to-1, right? And then if you go faster with the 1-to-1 inspiration expiration ratio, so 2 in, 2 out, 1 in, 1 out, that's more to kind of get you energized. This is something I might do in that mid-afternoon slump. I mean, you certainly could do it in the morning too, but it's a great time, like when, piston breathing kind of comes out of this, like a quick in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. So these are really helpful different rhythms. So the things I do, like, so that 5.5 in, 5.5 out is kind of going to get you here. But the reason that we're focusing on that in that exercise is coherence. Coherence leads to heart rate variability improvements. That's why we're focusing on that. But if you specifically need a little extra help going to sleep, add that extra long exhalation in there. And then also, if you're having a panic attack, that's why a lot of people are like, okay, inhale, then blow out through pursed lips. So, because when you purse your lips and blow out like you're blowing out through a straw, it slows it down. And ultimately, once you do a few of these, then you're starting to increase your levels of carbon dioxide and rebalancing it. I should say rebalancing them. A lot of times you blow off a lot of carbon dioxide when you're breathing too quickly. So this is really just allowing the body to balance. And then the next level, which I'm going to teach you a little bit about in our live session, I put these little reds, add a breath retention. One of the things I love to do at bedtime is, like, if I had a lot going on and I'm thinking more than I want after my normal evening routine, I'm going to go 4 in, 8 out. Okay, now I'm going to hold for 4. So in, 2, 3, 4, out, up to 8. And then I hold for 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I get comfortable doing that. And then for me, then I'll go inhale for 4, out for 8. Now I'm going to hold for 6. And then I'm going to continually, as I feel better, hold and hold. And typically what I find is that I like a 4 inhale, 8 exhale, 12 hold, and sometimes a little longer hold, to just kind of, on those really crappy days where my mind's running and I'm a little physically kind of uncomfortable. That last one there really is the key for me. So the answer really is, yes, you have to become a little uncomfortable. Term is a little. We don't want to be coming up here and then flying off the end and going down here. We just want to get up here. But this requires us to get a little uncomfortable. It's like going to the gym or riding my bike today. Like, I pushed it a little because I'm working to improve, we're just getting into the riding season and I'm working out, I'm looking to improve my performance. Same thing in the gym. And this is great. Anybody who's ever worked out or known somebody who works out, if you overtrain, this is what happens, right? Oh, I had a bad workout. Oh, no, actually I overtrained. Now I'm bonked and now I'm a mess. So when you start to lose your performance, you have to ask yourself, should I go back a little bit? And this analogy works really well with treatment. So before we dive into the actual kind of session, like the live session, I wanted to take a moment. And one of the people that was so influential in my healing was K. Pattabhi Jois. He was a guru of Ashtanga yoga. And he had a saying, do your practice and all is coming. And I've told you, so many times talking about this. When I started doing yoga, it's like I was doing work. I was doing like 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and then I had to breathe for the rest of the 90 minutes, right? And then eventually I got a little more and a little more flexible. I started to move the toxins out. My cells started to open up. My fascia started to open up. But really the point here is, just like those kids who just did their practice, I can guarantee you they were screwing around, but they still, even if they screwed around during that 15-minute period, you saw the results. So if you can only get like a little bit of this done 2-3 times a week, start there. If you can only breathe for a minute, start there and then go further. If you're only able to go, hey, I can only go like 2 in, 2 out, 2 in, 2 out. Then I'm going to go 3 in, 3 out. So all the numbers and the recommendations I give you are just guidelines for a place to maybe get to. Do you need to get there to heal? No. Is it a good place? It's research based, and that's why I'm sharing it. Absolutely. So that's, really, I think, super duper helpful, because what we're gonna do is, in a second here, I'll go back, is we're gonna dive into a guided breathing session. And as I tell you a little bit about that, I'm gonna just put hopefully a little bit of soft music in the background. And I'll check in here with the Q&A and see if we need to hit anything in the beginning. Cool. Low-dose naltrexone we'll hit at the end. Stomach pain, methylene blue. Yeah, and does music enhance heart coherence? I really appreciate that question, because what we're doing is I'm actually going to be using a track that is, I'm a SOMA certified breath work instructor. And I went with them because a lot of what they do is the breath work that we're gonna do is going to guide you through several of the stages that we talked about. But the other part that's so great about it is what happens is the music is in a beat that actually is going to help entrain your nervous system to your own heartbeat. That is the ultimate in healing, getting in touch with your heart. And so it's not that your heart needs to slow down or anything. It eventually will come to an optimal level for you. And the beauty is when you do this practice, when you do the work, you will get exactly what you need out of it. Just like all the stuff we've done over the past 4.5 weeks, you're going to get what you need from each lecture. And then maybe later on, you're going to need something else. And you go, oh, right, I can go back to Dr. Tom's video that's on the YouTube channel and I can watch it. You know, you're going to get exactly what you need from this breathwork session. So what we're going to really do is we're going to start out and we're going to use, and I guess there was another question, did we just start or is it almost finished? We're definitely just getting started. I guess we're technically almost halfway through, but we're going to do the actual healing session now. And so really what we're going to do is, this is kind of a really fun session for me. We're going to do a little introductory part where I'm going to ask you to call up sort of that thing that you're really passionate about, that gets your heart going, and really just focus on one thing that you can change. Whether it's like, I'm going to sleep better tonight, I'm going to wake up tomorrow with great energy, you're planning a vacation, you can't wait to be on the beach or whatever that is. Those things are all, you know, whatever really lights your heart. Or just think about your kids or your parents, your loved ones, your partner, whatever it is, right? And we're going to use that. And after a couple of minutes, our whole session will be just over 20 minutes, so it won't be too long. And it will be available in the full replay. I will also pull that session out and drop that into YouTube as a separate standalone, so you can just bang it out all at once. The beauty is what we're going to do is we're going to do one round where we do rhythmic breathing. We're going to inhale for 4. We're going to exhale for 4. It's not too fast. It's not slow. It's a nice medium pace. And this is a great introductory for anyone who has, at pretty much any level. But again, like if you need to breathe 2 and 2, the rhythm works for 4-4, it works for 2-2, it works for 5. Well, 5-5 is a little off, but it'll still kick in. But 6 and 8 inhalation, whatever works, like just go with it and do the best you can. And if you need to take a break and then come back with us, that's perfect. And about 7.5 minutes in, we're gonna do a breath retention. Usually what I do is I like to tell you ahead of time, I'm gonna have you inhale and hold your breath for just a little bit. And then we're gonna do an exhale with a big sigh. Just really good feelings, let all that tension out. And then we're gonna rest and allow our breath to just rest on the exhale. This is gonna help improve our carbon dioxide load and tolerance. For some people, they're gonna be at a last 4 or 5 seconds here, and then they're gonna need to take another breath in. And if that's you, that's okay. If you can make it 30 or 40 seconds, great. I've been do a lot of breath work. I can go a little bit longer. When I'm at altitude, it's a lot harder than when I'm at sea level for obvious reasons, but some days when I'm more stressed, I can't hold my breath as long as other days. But I gotta tell you, the ones where I can only hold it for 18 seconds rather than a minute in like 90 seconds or 2 minutes, a lot of times the 18-second breath hold sessions are the better ones. So what I'm gonna recommend you do is that whenever you feel like you need to take a breath, wait like 1 or 2 seconds, just go 1, 2, and then take a small breath in and a little breath out, and see if you can hold it just a little bit longer. And if you're at any point uncomfortable, just go back to breathing as just whatever feels nice and natural and slow to you. We're gonna give ourselves a little bit of time there. Then we're gonna breathe, kind of go back and inhale and exhale, and then just let your breath be the way it is, and just rest and enjoy that feeling. Then we're gonna go to a slightly faster breathing section where we're gonna do 4 in, 4 out. And then about 3 minutes in there, 3 minutes and change, we're gonna change to a 2-2. So we're gonna go just a little bit faster. Now, this is not a really fast 2-2. It's not gonna, it's not meant to wake anyone up for the whole night or anything like that. You should finish feeling really calm. And that faster part is only gonna be about 2 minutes. And then we're gonna do our final breath retention again. We're gonna inhale, hold a little bit. We're gonna maybe a little longer this time. We're gonna exhale, and we're gonna do the same thing. And then we're gonna just sit there and really feel it. I'll guide you through everything, but I just wanted to kind of give you that sort of upfront understanding of kind of what's going on. And then afterwards, super excited. We'll do a little debrief. After the debrief, we can certainly just dive into any last Q&A stuff we have from the whole month. I would like to try to keep it focused so that we're really going to be in a place of not only individual healing, but of group coherence and healing. This has been studied a ton, especially by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Just by us doing this in a group, this is going, even though it's virtual, they have seen biologic, physiologic, reproducible changes in major medical institution labs when people do this virtually. And this is incredible. So we can actually do virtual healing together and for each other. So one of the things I'm going to ask us to do is come together with an intention of not only healing ourselves, but healing our community here tonight in this session, and anyone who listens to this session in the future, and as well as anyone in your life and anyone in the globe who needs healing tonight. This all happens, and we can, if you want some time, I can do some YouTube videos on the science of it. I'll pull out a podcast I did with Hamel Patel and get that up, or maybe get an updated one with him, because he's the researcher doing all the work with Joe Dispenza. So it's really nice. One quick question though also was, do I exhale through my nose or in and out through my nose? Preferably at rest, we should all be breathing in and out of our nose, in and out of the nose. If we open our mouth a lot, or we're a mouth breather, we want to kind of reverse that, right? We want to get away from that. And the best way to do that is to start breathing through your nose, right? It sounds counterintuitive, but part of it is opening your nose. Breathing in the way that we're going to be breathing, particularly with these little breath holds, can help with the carbon dioxide and nitric oxide opening up your nasal passages. So even if it's a little hard to go in and out of your nose, do the best you can. As you practice more, it will actually open it up. The other thing is, for the purpose of this particular breath exercise, all the other ones I talked about, I would do in my nose, out my nose. But for this particular session, what I'm going to ask you to do is inhale through your nose, and then every exhale, just a nice gentle sigh of good feelings. And it's basically like letting go of all that stress. So for this session, in through your nose, out through your mouth. If at any point your nose or your mouth gets a little dry, you can certainly switch up your breathing to feel comfortable until you get used to it. So I think with that, I'm going to switch our slide, give you guys something super fun to look at. I'm going to take just a second and find where I'm living on this screen and turn off my video just for a sec, so you've got just a nice blank. And as you start to, I would take a moment. I'm going to switch our music over. And this music's going to be a little bit louder, so it'll be a nice merge and help guide you. And then give yourself a moment. And thank you so much for all the wonderful chats and stuff too. I really receive that in gratitude and love. The next thing we want to look at doing is just take a moment to get comfortable, either seated or lying. Just allow yourself to take a nice breath in, and when you exhale, release and just relax, allowing your body to just come into this present moment. And on your next inhalation, just hold a little bit at the top, and then as you exhale, allow your eyes to close and all tension to release from your body. And just allow your breath to simply breathe in and out, relaxing deeper with every breath. Now, each breath out allows you to release tension effortlessly. And bringing to mind your intention for tonight's session, that piece of passion that's going to ignite your healing. And allow that to come into your mind and into your heart. as you breathe in and relax with each exhale.
2, 3, 4.
Now we begin inhaling.
3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4.
And exhaling.
2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4.
Following the rhythm of the music.
2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Out.
And relaxing with each exhalation. Breathing in for 4 and out for 4.
3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. In. 2.
Let's turn up the music a little. It's usually really good.
2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4.
It looks like you guys said no music. What is up? Let's take a pause and fix it.
2, 3.
It is supposed to be working just fine. I think Marilyn's been here for some tech problems with music before. We had it all dialed, and this has worked perfectly recently. So let's fix it for you guys. Sorry about that, but we will get the full thing done. I don't know why it's not working properly. On my end, it looks really high. Let's take a quick gander here. Just turn that music back on. Can you guys let me know if you can hear it or not? As I try to figure out what the heck is going down. Sound effects are on. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, sorry guys. Give me 1 minute. We'll fix this up for you. On our test session, it worked perfectly, and it's worked perfectly. I did one of these last week. Let's get it going. All right, let's see if this will do it. I think I figured it out. Let's see. All right. Where's that one? Oh, now theoretically we should be able to start working. Let's see. How about now, guys? Any luck? Oh, good. On my end, it said it's working, so, and it's on 100%. All right, let's switch it up. Lovely. All right. I hear it on my end. It's very lovely. So just give me a minute. I will change this around and we will get going the way we're expecting to. I just need to move this track. All right. Now, all right. Can you guys hear that now? Yay. Sorry about that. I love this tech stuff. All right. Let me do one other thing, and then we'll get cracking the way we're supposed to be. Oops. All right, that's there. I really appreciate your patience. I came down early tonight to the office to get this all dialed in, and it looked perfect, but then it started to freak out. There. Well, let's just do it that way. All right, let's get started. Oh yeah, I just stopped it. Don't worry. Everybody hearing now? I just restarted. Awesome. Thanks for your patience, everybody. And let's get cracking here. So take a moment to find yourself seated or lying. Allowing yourself to breathe in and out. With your next breath in, hold just a little bit at the top. And then exhale, allowing your eyes to close as you release any and all tension. Breathing in and out, simply aware that you're being breathed and how relaxing each breath can be. And as you become even more comfortable, bring to mind your intention for this evening's session. This moment in time together to simply relax and heal. As we begin, we prepare for our breathing with 4 breaths in and 4 out. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Simply breathing. In through your nose and sigh out through your mouth. With each breath, allowing yourself to go deeper into this state of relaxation. With each exhale, allowing tension to release. Now, each inhalation, feeling energy enter into your body, filling your heart. And exhaling, allow your heart to feed every cell in your body. And be aware of your heart in the center of your chest, each breath nourishing you, each exhalation releasing any tension. Breathing in that love, light energy, awakening and lifting your heart, bringing to mind your goal, your intention for healing, and that thing that you are so passionate about. Feel that in your heart now, realizing that you're not alone. You are here with a group of like-minded individuals, all here for the common good. And your personal healing energizes our community. And as our community becomes more and more energized, your personal healing is amplified. Feel the connection. This love in your heart is so much bigger than just you. It is your connection to universal healing. That power within also surrounds you, supports you, and you are safe now and every moment forward. You feel safety grow, understanding that a little bit of uncomfortable moments, while initially slightly scary, are actually the stimulus you need to optimally heal. And in a moment, as we hold our breath together, hold just in a way that's right for you, and become a little more familiar with that healthy yet slightly uncomfortable feeling as you step up to the plate for your own healing and preparing yourself. Now, take a big breath in, hold, and then exhale with a sigh. And then take a small breath in and out, allowing your breath to rest at the end of exhalation. As you go deeper and deeper into this moment, where you do not need to breathe in or out. You can simply be and simply heal. And if you get an urge to breathe, just override it just a little, and then take a small sip of air in, blowing it back out. and allowing your breath to rest as you become one with the stillness of this moment. And take a big breath in and out, allowing your breath to rest, to be free, however it needs to be. And just allow yourself to be in this moment. Connecting with your heart. Allowing yourself to heal. Allowing your breath to be free. Free to invigorate your heart. And allowing your heart to share this healing with every piece of your body. Resting. Healing. Feeling the safety of this present moment. Feeling that vibration, the vibration of love that is present in every cell of your body. Knowing that this vibration is bringing you all that you need and all that you want. As you go even deeper into this present moment, this moment of love and gratitude, as we get ready to breathe in a rhythm, that 4-4, and beginning in 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4. Breathing in that rhythm, allowing your heart and your lungs to drive. Filling your heart with love and sharing that healing love energy with every cell in your body. Exhaling with a sigh of good feelings. And as you continue to breathe in this rhythm, becoming more and more coherent, you're tapping into the highest levels of consciousness, that healing consciousness deep within that surrounds and supports you. Allowing yourself to go deeper and deeper with each inhalation and exhalation. Going deeper and deeper still. With each breath, it becomes easier and easier to release old patterns. With each breath, allowing yourself to more easily install new patterns of thinking, new patterns of doing, those aligned with your highest purpose and optimal health. And going even deeper, allowing yourself to open your heart and receive the healing codes that are perfect for you. Receive those healing codes from your higher self as you connect with Source. And get ready to increase your rate, to go to the next level, where we're going to allow those healing codes to be fully installed, rebooting your system with that new healing program. Now, let's begin. In, two, out, two, in, two, out, two. Allowing the light to fill your heart and to cleanse and revitalize every cell of your body. Effortlessly releasing any negative thoughts, any negative feelings, any recurrent patterns. Now, become one with all that is, as you install those new patterns of thinking that are aligned with your highest purpose and optimal health. Continuing to breathe. In this rhythm, aligning your heart with your true self, downloading the unique vibrational code of your healing. Now, we'll prepare for a final breath retention by taking a deep breath in, hold, And let go. Allowing your breath to rest at the end of exhalation. As you go deeper and deeper into this moment. And when you feel the need to take a breath, take a small sip in and let it all out. Pushing slightly past that comfort zone, breaking free. And when the time is right for you, allowing your breath to be free, however it wants to be. Playing, holding your breath on an inhale or an exhale, or simply allowing your breath to come to a stop at a place that's natural for it. Becoming one with all that is. Allowing your heart to connect to every cell of your body. Nourishing, uplifting, and loving. And allow this love to be turned outward, showering it across the globe, connecting with your healing community as we strengthen each other. And by sharing and strengthening each other, we in turn strengthen ourselves even more. For you are amazing, an absolute miracle of life. And you have absolutely everything you need to receive. Just allow your heart to open, and the love, the light, and the healing to pour in. Now, when the time is right for you, you can begin to come back to this room, to this place. In this time and space in your physical body. And as you become aware of the room and a more outward focus, recognize the depth of brainwave state and of healing. And this feeling is the alpha brainwave state. So before we finish, whenever we're in this mode, very similar to waking in the morning, take a moment and just bring to mind your intention of healing, whatever it may be. When you can feel that in your heart, place your hands over your heart in thanks for just a moment. And breathe deeply right into it. And then you can come back, opening your eyes. And welcome back. Oops. Be right there. So I apologize. Thank you, Roberta and Marilyn. Yeah, thanks so very much. Lots of love to all you guys. Yeah, I don't know. Like Marilyn knows for sure. I've tested this a billion different ways, and I think there was a little snafu with putting the audio on the screen that I was using, but it should work. So what I'll do for the replay, because there's some sound issues, is I will put up this replay, but I will re-record a quick one for you guys. Same thing, just kind of similar music, and we will put that up for you as a way of saying thanks and making sure you actually get like the full it's interesting. A lot of times I'm like, well, if you hear any crazy noises or things don't go right, that'll help you get more relaxed and heal even deeper. But these things happen. So I really appreciate that. And thanks for all the love in the comments. Hopefully further on in there, we got some of the audio better, but I'll get you a good solid copy that's not screwed up and send it out to you. And yeah, thanks for so much for being here. I mean, for me, like the thing about the breath work is you can incorporate the science of Western medical healing with a way to get deeper, right? So we can combine the benefits of meditation and prayer, connection, whatever that may be, with all the science. And as you do this more and more, it's not just about the gratitude and the heart rate variability, but it is getting the more carbon dioxide, right? And that's going to be anti-anxiety and better circulation and opening up the nose. And the same thing with nitric oxide. But with nitric oxide, you're also going to add in anti-inflammatory, including against COVID, right? So it's really kind of some of these pathways are really good. So it's really nice to be able to see that we can do all these things that are simple and ground us. And then it helps you sleep better, right? So let's see, there's a question I got. Is it normal for oxygen to drop like down to 93? Maybe you can give me a little more information there, Joan, but if it's while you're breathing a little more slowly, yes. And if during a breath retention, you can certainly do it. I used to practice a ton, and before I lived at altitude, it's interesting, longevity-wise, people live at altitude generally live longer. Kind of when you do all the age matching and stuff. But one of the things I used to do to help myself train better for bicycling and also to recover better is I would actually do intervals on the bike with a pulse ox on in the house. And I would actually intentionally slow my breathing down and even do breath retentions. and able to get my oxygen saturation down in the low 80s and hold it there for a little while. It's exceptionally uncomfortable, I can guarantee you that. But definitely during this practice, if your O2 went down just a little bit, pretty normal. Yeah, you're all very, very welcome. Yeah, it's great, right? Kids study box breathing 3 times a week, super easy. So again, they studied in for 5, hold for 5, out for 10, hold for 5. But you would get similar results with 5 in, hold for 5, 5 out, hold for 5. And the same thing I said, one of the reasons I introduced that 5.5, 5.5 is because that's also evidence-based, and it's stinking easy, right? And so that's really the part. I want to make these things as easy as possible for everybody to enjoy it. Oh yeah, and Jill, it's so funny. Like the sound was actually, it's so frustrating sometimes. I literally I'm gonna go back and figure out what the heck was wrong, and I will record this for you guys with the exact same stuff that was supposed to work tonight, because I had the sound perfectly balanced, the volume perfectly balanced, and then it just like broke or something. So I'm going to smile and just go, I'm very thankful for all your understanding, because I want to give you a gift, and I'll make sure I get you the full gift too. And yeah, so which Joan was saying, when she just saw the clouds, it was nice because you didn't have to deal with the stuff being out of control. So, yeah, we will definitely get that to you. And, I feel a lot of love coming over from you guys. And I really want to say I appreciate that, because, you try these things, you think you have them dialed and you're ready to go, and then it doesn't work. And you're like, oh, I wanted to give this to my friends, and you're putting yourself out there. So to have such great people supporting you as you are, I really couldn't thank you enough. And I want to make sure I hit a couple of the questions here. Let's see. I'm going to hold LDN for just a second. So yeah, I mean, things with traditional Chinese medicine, cold damp spleens and stuff. I'm not an acupuncturist or a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. One of the things that I do is a lot of energetic screening with a thing called Nest Health. And basically that's a way to look at screen through your voice, how things are moving energetically, but also through the lens of not only modern bioenergetics and research, but also traditional Chinese medicine. And the overlap I've seen there, when we come up with it's about how the energy is moving through the body and the interrelationships between there. So I do think working on those can be really helpful. I plan on doing a podcast in the very near future with my dear friend Harry Massey, who started Nest Health, and we'll have all kinds of information on that for you. So just keep an eye out. It'll be on YouTube, all the other channels. I'll make sure I announce it through our newsletter, or independent mailing. We were actually going to record it this week, but he was traveling and then picked up some virus. So we're going to let him recover, and then we're going to get that done. And that'll talk a lot more, about those kind of things. Let's see. I'm going to go to the more medically based questions in a second, just as we kind of ease out of this piece here. Craniosacral osteopathic manipulation, whether someone has acute or chronic Lyme, is it wise to receive these forms of body work, or doing it might encourage movement of the spirochete somehow? And then also about massage therapy. There's no evidence that I'm aware of that we're going to mobilize any spirochete to be moving around the body more, right? There are some people who will do vigorous exercise or deep tissue massage to hopefully improve their ability to, get a positive test result of, they do that with the variety test. I'm not sure that really happens, because they're not really going, hey, I tested the person before and after it to see that it really happens. But cranial work, especially osteopaths who are trained well, or craniopsychotherapists who have, kind of gone above and beyond the basic protocol training. What we're working with is your natural self-healing mechanism, and we're asking your body how we can help it and be a catalyst, or like a fulcrum of the body doing its own work. So we're not asking the body to do stuff that it's not already trying to do. And this leads to it being a very great modality for getting your immune system functioning better, calming your nervous system down. There's actually really great studies about it. Osteopathic work, especially cranial work, getting you into a parasympathetic state. And so we're really that's helping the body get into a healing mode. Could 1 or 3 spirochetes move a little more easily from one place to the other? Maybe. But the benefit of bumping up the immune function and removing some of the structural problems that are holding the body back the benefit of that's far out, going to far outweigh any potential risk involved with that. I would probably say that, like, I might stay, especially in an acute setting, I might stay away from some of the more aggressive work. I'm not saying aggressive is bad. I mean, there's times where I need, I pop out a rib, or my neck gets all whacked out, climbing or riding or even just sleeping wrong, and you need that pop back in. But if you're going through sort of like a really big, Herxheimer with chronic Lyme or whatever, it may be the time to do some more of the gentle stuff. But lymphatic drainage can be done with lymphatic massage, all kinds of body work, exercise, even breath work. We need the lymphatic system to work better. So that will be mobilizing and moving spirochetes potentially to different places, but it's so the body can nail them, right? And so there might be a little negative there, but certainly I think my experience and the experience of everybody else, like you talk to Neil Nathan, he basically says everybody should see a cranial osteopath, and he's done extensive training in osteopathic cranial work, just as I have, and so he knows the value of that. So we would both agree with that. Question about a tick box system doesn't work, and those people aren't in that area. I think they still have Daminex tubes online. But basically, one of the things you could do also is you could take that permethrin, or even fipronil if you were able to get it. But you could get permethrin and soak cotton balls and put them in the paper towel, the little roll on the inside, and you would just kind of put the paper towel holder out there, put the treated. The cotton balls in there, and then when the rodents, and have them be dry so you don't kill the rodents, and then they're going to take it back to their nest where it'll kill the ticks. So that's one way you can certainly do that, and certainly get something similar to that. And a lot of people I know have combined like spraying with more natural things with whoever's in the area and creating their own permethrin impregnated cotton balls that are in those paper towel tubes. So hopefully that helps. Recommend any specific kind of yoga or program or online instructor? I think one thing there, the big question is, what are you looking for? I started studying Ashtanga, which is well known for being very hardcore, very like where power yoga comes from. It's very athletic. But also it's well known for people hurting themselves by trying to go further than they really can. I didn't go about it that way. My teacher wasn't like that. He is online. He's got great, resources. His name is David Swenson, but Ashtanga is not for everybody. It's actually a pretty significant thing. Yin yoga is really good. Any kind of versions of that can be really great. I guess, Judy, if you can kind of hit me back on one of these little chats here, like, are you particularly looking for like a softer yoga or a structural, like I use a lot of foundation training, which is at ftstreaming.com. They do a great job of helping you. But again, it's not super physical, but it certainly gets your posterior chain muscles to hold you upright and you breathe more fully. So you get, other things. And so that's really helpful. If you want to reach out, and let us know specifically. I do like Primal Trust. They're great. I have programs that we do. So there's a bunch of different things out there. I think the biggest thing is finding a yoga person or a meditation teacher who's studied. I always like to go back to like the original place as close as possible and get old school teachings, not the westernization of old school teachings. That's just my personal preference. And then just take it kind of easy. My practice is in Connecticut and Utah. We do primarily virtual at the moment, but we have I have licenses in Utah and Connecticut and Florida, and a few more are just about done. So you can check at originsofhealth.com, and there's information on that. And then also my partner, Dr. Jess Montalvo, has been studying with us in the Lyme practitioner training program for over 3.5 years. Grabbed her as soon as I could. She has like 13 different states she can do. Some of ours overlap, some don't. So hopefully that'll help. And certainly, whether you're looking at, breathing or yoga or movement or any kind of real exercise, that's going to help improve lymphatic flow. And sorry, I just caught Jill's comment. Shit happens in cyberspace. That's the truth, right? I wonder if this thing is still on. I don't know. It doesn't. Oh, it stayed on. Good. So lots of love to you guys on that one. I will look. Oh, there's some Facebook questions. Cool. I will go check there. I have to check over on YouTube too. And I also, let's see. There's a comment that someone said you hit the nail on the head when you said a person can't heal if they're not safe. It's really interesting about this to me is we are not talking about your higher human brain understanding you're safe, right? We're talking about your reptilian nervous system that basically doesn't care how you feel. It just wants to make sure you're alive to pass on your genes. Feeling like crap with chronic Lyme disease forever, you still can pass on your genes, right? So physiologically, we're talking about, because in your brain, you know you're safe. Like everybody I've talked to goes, oh yeah, I know I'd be, like no one said, oh yeah, chronic Lyme is good for me, right? No one goes out of their way to say that. Now you can learn lessons from it and you can actually open your eyes and learn to lead a different lifestyle and all that kind of good stuff, but metaphysical and all. But the bottom line is your nervous system is the one we're worried about. So everything we're talking about tonight is to help your reptilian brain get more comfortable, right? And so essentially, it's a comfort zone. Your being sick is comfortable because you're familiar with it. And whatever you're familiar with, your nervous system likes. So your reptilian nervous system. So what we need to do is help you get a little more comfortable with unfamiliar things, but just a little bit, right? So that over time, that little bit of, like breath work. If you hold your breath for 10 seconds and it's uncomfortable, but you do it 4 times a week for a month, then you're going to be comfortable with it. So now you can hold your breath for 15 seconds, right? So you get more and more and more uncomfortable, but you don't just go, oh, I'm just going to like strap some on my face and until I pass out because I'm going to make it to 90 seconds on the first day. That doesn't make any sense. Your nervous system will be, blown out. So that's a really important one. Yeah, and it's a challenge when you don't feel safe, because some of your family are selective in how they support you, right? And you never know where they stand. This is one of the things, when I talk to people about public speaking, because I do a fair amount of it, one of the things that I recommend to them is, because it doesn't bother me to do, but I think it's because I really want to serve and I want to share with you guys information that's going to help. And so one of the things that I think is so important is if you're going to and this will come back to, safety in other situations, but public speaking is one of the most unsafe, is reportedly like one of the most unsafe experiences for most human beings ever, statistically speaking. So it's a place to go. But when I go and do public speaking, my goal is if I can help one person or say something to one person that allows them to say something to another person, and we changed just one person's life by being there, it was worth it, right? Even if I traveled 5 hours on a plane, had to put myself up in a hotel, eat this crappy food at the hotel or whatever, but if I can help one person alleviate their suffering, live a better life, share their passion and their light with the world, it's worth it. So when I get up and talk, it's about you. It's not about me. And so one of the things that we can do is make it about, what is our goals? What are our passions? And when I'm interacting with people, I'm like, hey, I'm living my best life. And if you're not part of that, that's okay. And if you can support me in this moment, but maybe not the next one, it doesn't feel good. It's not helping my health. But at the same time, I'm just going to let you do you and I'm going to do me. Because when I let you do you, then you're more likely to kind of support me as well. And it's from the public speaking thing. It's like, look, I want to make this interaction about the other person feeling good. And sometimes I really am sick and I need them to help me. But sometimes the best way to do that is to just let it be, right? And it's not fun and it's not great. And I certainly had a lot of that stuff happen with my family. I have it happen to me every day as a doctor. I have patients come in thinking that because they read something on Facebook, they know more than I do, or that I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know that? And I don't know that they're all coming in overtly trying to be an ass to me, but it's human nature, right? And often loved ones are in a place where they don't know what to do. and they really love you, and then they're like, shit, I don't know what to do, and then they have to start looking at their own shit, and that really freaks people out. I mean, I've seen more family members freak out, one, because they don't know what to do to help you. They're trying hard and they lose their mind, so they just fall back in the old habits because they don't know what to do, and they're actually stressed out because they don't know how to really help you. And another one is like, you're doing things that maybe they're not doing. You're looking at things and talking about things in a different way than they are. And then they look in the mirror and they're like, oh crap, I don't know if I want to really do that. So all of you here who are doing this work and looking hard in the mirror and sitting through some of these questions and answers and going through these healing sessions are doing amazing work. So great work. Let's see, oxygen concentrators. I don't usually do a lot of oxygen concentration stuff unless you're doing it with, like hyperbarics or whatever. But otherwise, like what will happen is if you slow your breathing down a little bit, your carbon dioxide level will naturally go up, and you'll become over time more and more tolerant of slightly higher levels, which will mean you'll actually be able to give more oxygen to your tissues. So it's like an oxygen concentrator. The other thing that happens is that you increase over time the number of red blood cells because you're chronically breathing slower and you have less oxygen carrying capacity because you're preventing it just a smidge. You're actually going to promote increased blood cell growth. So like for me, like when I live at 7,000 feet, that's doing it for me. I go down to sea level, everything I do cardiovascularly, or even if you go out and have a drink, it's like you don't even notice you had it because you have so many more red cells. You can actually do this at sea level or at altitude for yourself just with a little bit of breathing, and you can become your own oxygen concentrator. But certainly if you're doing stuff with hyperbarics and stuff, it certainly has a good place. I think nitric oxide helps with a ton of treatments. The big things for me, nitric oxide has been shown to block inflammation through the NLRP3 inflammasome pathway. That gets turned on by a lot of things, including COVID. It also helps to vasodilate. And one, it's a general body-wide anti-inflammatory, but also it vasodilates. So that plus carbon dioxide, when they vasodilate, it's not only your blood vessels going into your heart, going into your brain, into your fingers and your toes, but it's also going to help vasodilate your nose. So one of the biggest things we need to do in mold toxin treatment is to open up the nose so we can get the treatments in, because mycotoxins and molds often colonize the sinuses. But the other thing is when you look at the brain detoxification through this system called the glymphatic system, 20 to 30% of all brain detoxification happens through the lymphatic channels along the sides of the nerve of smell in the nose. So if your nose is closed like this, you're not going to be able to get the optimal drainage. So if you want to decrease brain inflammation, improve brain detoxification, get rid of a lot of that autoimmunity that gets triggered through the nose pathway in PANS and PANDAS and in mold toxicity, we need to get that carbon dioxide up and that nitric oxide up to open up that. And then also you have a lot more drainage out of there. And then if somebody has a lot of SIBO or gut issues, a lot of stuff from your nose and your mouth are dripping down there. So we want to have oral hygiene, and we want to also open up our nose, and nitric oxide's a big piece of that. But I don't think you need to do like nitric oxide other than like breathing wise, right? You don't need to go out and like huff on nitric oxide. Lyme-related hair loss. I mean, the challenge with Lyme-related hair loss is it's primarily, in my experience, it's primarily stress-related. Now, again, like I said at the beginning, this is not like I'm saying you're stressed out and you just need to like go on a vacation and like, whatever, just like take a chill pill and like grow up or anything. It's not that thing at all. What I'm saying is, Lyme puts a physiological stressor on the body, and a lot of hair loss comes from your hair follicles. They're all programmed to have your hair grow for a period of time. Then the follicle will eject the hair, and then it'll grow a new one. So you lose about 150, 200-ish or so hairs a day. But that's normal. When you're under a physiological stressor, like we go back to the work we talked about with Dr. Porges, and you're in that state of fight, flight, or freeze too often, you can see that a lot of the hair follicles will start to eject at the same time. So then you lose a ton of hair, and then once that physiological stressor has calmed down, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical, or all, then what we see is the hair can start to grow back. But the problem is you've lost patches, and then you have like a crew cut growing in the middle of all this longer hair. And then the other problem is a lot of people who are having physiologic stress where their follicles are freaking out and, dumping more hair than they need to at the same time. You often have that cyclic nature of the Lyme-Herxheimer and all the other things. And if you have, if you hit the nail on the head with your treatment and you have a big flare, like these things, it just keeps compounding. So it's not, you may not have ongoing hair loss. It's like, but you have a huge hair loss and then you improve, and then you have a huge hair loss and you improve. The problem is your hairs grow back really slow. So it often compounds and it can be challenging. I don't know that a topical antibiotic or herb would help in that. There are concentrations of minoxidil for men and women that can help kind of reboot the hair follicles. You can buy those over the counter. Women just don't get the men's version because it's a higher dose, and it's been shown in studies that you don't need the men's, you need the women's dose. What I should say is men at a higher concentration typically get better results, whereas women get the same results at like a 2% or a 5%, but women don't see doubling down or tripling down really making a difference, except that they get more side effects. So that's why they have women's and men's out there. So that could potentially help. I don't know that it's directly like Lyme messing with the follicles. It's more how Lyme hijacks the nervous system. But certainly, I mean, I put topical Biocidin and Cryptolepis on people for a lot of other reasons. I wouldn't say don't try it, but certainly I think it's more related to the hair follicle ejecting too soon without knowing any other information. I will go check Facebook in a minute. Yeah, used to do HIIT yoga, and it's too intense and it can take 4 days to recover. Thanks for the comment. I think that's a really important one, because what happens is, when we do all these things, we need to be able to recover. And the key is, if you can get sore but still do stuff and recover quickly, within a day or so, good. Now, like if you do a heavy leg workout day or and then you do a heavy upper body day, yeah, you're gonna be sore, but you're still like in 3 days, you're gonna be able to do something with your legs again, right? Using an exercise example, But if you're like, I can't walk for 3 or 4 days, it's just too much. And the goal is really, I always tell people, do about 70% of what you think you can do, and then move to that next level, right? So that way you give yourself a little bit of leeway. And so like, again, if you think you can walk a mile, walk 7/10 of a mile, if you and so on and so forth, and then slowly increase. That way, while you're recovering, don't overdo it, but just don't not do anything. And sometimes things are good and then you can't tolerate them anymore and you have to go back. And that's why my family and I are using Whoop now because we can measure all this. It measures our daily strain. And one of the most important things is recovery. So whether you use a gadget or whether you go and you just assess it on like your own perception of recovery, 4 days is way too long, right? So then you just have to back off and eventually work back up to it. But I think it's a really great comment that like, you might have done something before now, but sometimes you might have to pull back. A follow-up question on the paper towel method or perhaps spraying the lawn. I would actually do both. And that's kind of what that Nix Ticks situation was, in terms of, they do the tick bait boxes, which is like the paper towel roll. And then they also spray at the times where the ticks are the most. And yeah, Roberta, thanks for telling me that it was YouTube, not Facebook. I'll go right there in a minute. And for noticing the beautiful nails. We went to the concert, and so, we have a good time. I'm okay with the nails because, they're immortalized on YouTube now, but other than that, not a big deal. Yeah, it's interesting. Marilyn was saying like it's cool, like her muscle testing response is stronger after doing breath work. Lots of really cool stuff. I know we have a couple more questions that are over here, and then we'll hit YouTube. Is Don Croft Zapper 15 hertz device worth buying? I don't know that particular device, so I really shouldn't comment because I don't really know about them. So sorry about that. If you've got a little information, you send it over to our office at info@originsofhealth.com. And if I look at it and I have something to say about it, I'll make a little post or something about it in the future. So thank you. Yeah, I don't know that an oxygen concentrator is needed to pass the blood-brain barrier to push out gliotoxins. I think that, I don't know who you're specifically referring to, so I can't say. There might be some research I'm unaware of. I think a lot of these things are things that we think sound good, but no one's tested. I don't know how we would know gliotoxins are coming out of the brain or not, but certainly I think getting more oxygen is good. And part of the thing I like about the breath work to do it is that you're actually going to open up. One of the most important things for the blood-brain barrier, oh, there are two big things. One is what's in your nose and in your throat. So, and then also what's in your gut. So, so many people out there are talking a ton about what's going on in your gut and the microbiome. Your oral microbiome is the starting place of your gut microbiome. So we need to do a really good job with oral health. What I like to do is I use Primal Defense, Primal Life powder, tooth powder. And I typically do that in the morning. I really like it. I personally like the fruity bubblegum one, but it's got a lot of minerals and it remineralizes your teeth. They feel really great. It's stevia sweetened, but barely. Some essential oils, different kinds, peppermint, spearmint. There's some with charcoal. Really just a really nice job. And I love getting the alkalinity going. I combine that in the evening with biocidin, dentalcidin, and the dentalcidin LS. So essentially, it's biocidin has antimicrobial toothpaste, and then they also have an antimicrobial tooth wash. I do that in the evening. They have some good case reports showing that helping with that. And then there's some studies showing that if you brush your teeth after meals, you can decrease the amount of Candida yeast in your gut. So a lot of these are important. Now going back to the oxygen and the blood-brain barrier, in our nose, oxygen and carbon dioxide are going to open up our sinus passages, opening up that drainage. One of the challenges we see in autoimmune encephalitis like PANS and PANDAS is that we actually the recurrent strep in our nose and our throat will lead to our own cells congregating there and then going up into disrupting our blood-brain barrier and disrupting our or leading to cross-reactive antibodies and leading to inflammation. So pretty much everybody with mold illness, everybody with Lyme, Babesia, Bartonella don't have an intact blood-brain barrier anyway. So, a lot of stuff is crossing that probably wouldn't have otherwise. Standard American diet will destroy your blood-brain barrier and your memory, as well as your emotional IQ and lead to anxiety and depression. And even I think it was 3 baked goods per day increases your risk of depression by 56%. 3 baked goods per week increases your risk of, or commercially baked goods, but commercially made baked goods. But seriously, a 50% increased risk of depression just by eating crap. So that's kind of wild to me. So what I try to do is say, hey, if I want my blood, and then also there's work in the last 10 years that has shown the blood-brain barrier is not as impervious as we once thought it was. So if you have inflammation, your gut's off, your nose is off, your blood-brain barrier probably isn't even close to optimally functioning. But if you do, an oxygen concentrator would be a machine. And some people feel better when they get oxygen. Don't get me wrong. Oxygen feels good. Question is, do you really need that, or can you just do the breathing? And personally, hey, I would start off with the breathing because it's free and you're doing it already, and it has all these other fringe health benefits, and then add the oxygen concentrator later if you still seem like you need it. Yeah, is there any method studies to tell the difference between mental health symptom being medical or psychological? If you did a SPECT scan, like a lot of the stuff we have I think the podcast is either came out today or will come out later today or next Tuesday. But myself and Ebony Cornish from the Amen Clinic, so that'll be on the YouTube channel in the next little bit. We talk a lot about SPECT scans. If you see physiological changes there, that could suggest that there is something else driving your psychologic stuff. But there's actually studies with functional MRI where, let me rewind a second. You could have a medical condition or a physical condition, infection, say, causing this. problem is we also have that study where with functional MRI where there are 3 people virtually throwing a ball back and forth. And after a couple minutes, the researchers said, hey, to 2 people, just leave the other person out. Don't throw to them. Just throw back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And what happened was after this was done, they whisked the study participants down the hall and their brain blew up in all the areas of the limbic system in your brain that leads to you feeling left out, dissed, socially ostracized. And that leads to all kind of physiological changes in anterior cingulate gyrus and all kinds of other places within, the hippocampal and amygdala sort of limbic system. And what's really interesting, though, is these people who were playing the game, only the person with the brain changes, the left out person, was a real person. The other 2 were computer models. So it's all part of a computer game that was run by the researchers, but they told the other person they were playing with remote people. Just the idea that these people left them out and isolated them and invalidated them being important led to physical changes that were found on a functional MRI. So the challenge is, whether it's medical or psychological, we can't always tell on a scan because your brain and your body and your heart interpret it all the same. So body, mind, and spirit is one thing to you, your physiology. We just break it apart to talk about it. So it's an awesome question, but unfortunately, it's really hard to tell the difference, except if hey, somebody was fine, they got strep throat, we and all of a sudden they're crazy, and then we swabbed their throat and we found strep, we gave them Augmentin, and 10 days later they're better. That does happen. Unfortunately, not as all. People don't usually get treatment that quickly, but anyway, when that does happen, that can be the outcome. But that's one of the ways you might know from a clinical perspective. Let's see. I think I keep skipping LDN, and now we're well in the medicine. Let's do that. Amazing information all month. Thank you so much for being with me too. Have a question about LDN. Wondered if you might know. Yeah, it takes a while to kick in, but then it can really help with symptom management. It's primarily an immune modulator, and it decreases cytokines, so it's an anti-inflammatory. And could it cause stomach pain? Some people get stomach pain at almost any dose, but LDN does have a prokinetic effect, meaning it helps the gut move forward. So if it might have pushed it too hard, it could lead to stomach pain. Some people get that. Some people just need to go down in dose, and they can do that. And I usually use between 1.5 and 4.5 milligrams, but maybe that could do it. There's not a lot of, and the question goes on to say, is there any other medication or supplement like it? I mean, it depends on what works for you. I mean, specialized pro-resolving mediators, like we have SPM Synergy, Designs for Health makes one, Metagenics makes one. So there's a handful of them on the market. Those are concentrated fish oil extracts. Those can help modulate the immune system like that. Some people find liposomal curcumin do it. The problem is LDN definitely is one that can do something. It's kind of unique, From an energy perspective, the methylene blue may ultimately help in the way that low dose naltrexone does over time. But again, you might want to go a little bit lower and see if you can get back into it or not. Let's see. Yeah, cold laser therapy I love. I actually have a cold laser, several cold lasers at my house, and we used to do it in the office. Again, I don't think that it's the cure of Lyme, right? I think it's an adjunct for pain. Can red light kill some infections? We've talked about that earlier this month. Yes. I've seen just a couple cases of where they had really bad bone pain and we thought it was from Babesia. We did some red light cold laser therapy and it worked on that. Didn't get rid of their other symptoms, but it seemed to get kind of that pain to go. So did it kill Babesia in the bone marrow and then allow that not to be a problem spot anymore? Maybe, but it didn't kind of, I've not seen cold laser cure everything, but certainly pain and inflammation, it's a great adjunct. Yeah. I'm just reading through this before if I could summarize it. Yeah, one of the challenges is like with safety is sometimes other people around us make it really challenging, right? Or circumstances. It could be people, it could be our environment, it could be, you know, our job, it could be that we don't have a job, it, you know, could be our living situation is, I have a lot of people with tons of mold they can't get out of. They're, you know, it's like their landlords are giving them shit and like they're not doing what they need to do, and it's like these people are suffering, they can't afford the move. It can be really a challenging thing, and that's kind of like why one of the reasons I want to do my best to get this free information out. I mean, you know, there might you know, when I read things like the people around me are kind of, you know, trying to cut me off, that really, you know, from, you know, like either inheritance or even a house to live in, that really hurts. And it's like, that's a really challenge to feeling safe. And that might be one of the most important parts of healing, is figuring out how to address that. Because that, I mean, that's, you know, everybody needs to have a roof over your head and feel safe and that's the comment started with, it's beyond reptilian fear. And absolutely, I agree. So I'm really sorry to hear that. And hopefully, between some more, you know, I have some other podcasts coming out with some people where we dive deeper into this. We're not going to change what, say, your parents or your friends or your landlords are doing that's directly. But one of the things I would say, though, too, that jumps out at me is, like I tell people to love Lyme disease, because it's kind of like family. This is a great example. I say this all the time about Lyme and about family. You don't have to like your family, and you don't have to like Lyme disease, but you have to love them. And the reason I say that is, like, if you pick one of the last several presidents, I'm sure you could pick one that you like or you don't like. The last few have made it really easy. If you hate on them and you're like, F you, and you get all, but who does that hurt? They get like 1 micron of your hate, and all the rest is holding you together, right? And it's hurting you, suppressing your immune system, making you feel like shit. So what I would say is, what I'm reading in the question here is very disheartening to me. And I don't know all the details, but it feels like it's, you know, I would feel very similar in the same situation. I would not feel safe. But if I always say, do the best you can do with what you have from where you're at, you know. I learned this from one of Bob Proctor's friends, Mary Morrissey, that I also studied with. She's run world peace you know, summits for the Dalai Lama, like 3 or 4 different occasions. But she says, you know, really, it's one of these things with, you do the best you have with what you do the best you can from where you are with what you have. And that doesn't mean that you're going to stay there, and that doesn't mean you deserve it. What it means is, like, you harness everything you can do. So you can say, like, look, I don't like this. This is not right. You can't do this to me, Lyme disease, or my parents or my friends. That's completely unacceptable. But I am also going to love you and say, I love you, and I'm not tolerating this, right? To whatever level is appropriate in the moment. Because I know from what I read here, it's very complicated. But just send that love and just say, I know somewhere inside of you, you are doing this because I know you love me. I don't agree with what you're doing. What you're doing may be completely wrong. After my dad died, we had so many bad times in our lives together. We kind of patched it up mostly and got on okay-ish terms before he got really demented and had kidney disease. And after that, it was different. But once he died, I just had this moment sitting down in an event very much like this, where I was like, oh my God, I finally saw a moment where I wanted him to be there for me my whole life. But I was so miserable from all the other shit he had done to me that I couldn't see it when that one time he was there. So I basically told him to fuck off the one time he did the thing I wanted him to do. And it was like so painful. But then I go, oh, what if I just put different meaning on that? You know, like he was trying, but he had shitty, he was trying and he didn't have the tools in order to get through to he couldn't do what I wanted him to do. He couldn't even do what he really wanted to do. He didn't know what to do, so he did the best he could, and the best he could do sucked ass. That was the bottom line. Most of the time, I shouldn't say that. The times that I remember that are emotionally charged, a lot of it was he was trying really hard, and he tried so hard that he made it worse than anything. But I can love him for that. I don't like what he did to me. And we don't need to go into all those things, but it was like amazing to just go that. And now, did that forgive him for everything he ever did? And did I forget it? No. Did it change that he did it to me? No. Did it make it right? No. But what it did was it allowed me to have a little extra space to not waste as much energy in my immune system, in my heart, and just like my battery, right? And it allowed me to just go, okay, the situation sucked, but I have just a little bit of extra in there because I care about you and I love you. I want you to have that. And, and I'm not saying what other people are doing when they get in the way of our true safety is good or appropriate, or that you deserve it, or that they're okay or whatever. I'm just saying it's shit that it's happening. I'm not judging anybody in it. If it's not feeling safe to you, it's not safe. But you can give yourself within that as much room as you can, because we're not always in control of everything. And for me, I'm a control freak, and when I'm not in control, I don't really like it. So to be able to sit down and go, okay, this is an important piece. All the best with that. Lots of love. I know our whole community is sending love to anybody and everybody who's feeling unsafe. Yeah, and it's interesting. I really like this comment. Like a lot of chronic Lyme and other people like that. Gupta, Annie Hopper's DNRS, and even Primal Trust can be too much. I certainly find that DNRS is harder than Gupta, which is harder than Primal Trust for most people. Like I said, hey, I would sit on your bed and breathe a little bit and think about one thing you want. And I definitely have some more materials coming out, free materials on the YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. But literally all you have to do is think about something you love in your heart and breathe. That's step one. You're already breathing. And so why don't you just focus on I'm breathing. Even if you don't change how fast you're breathing, think about it. Just notice that you're breathing into your chest, whatever that is, noticing is for you. Then think about something that you did love, you will love, or you still love. And just feel it, even if it's just like a memory or a possibility. And just do that 5 minutes a day, pretty easy to do. You can do it while you're lying down, sitting up. You can hang from the ceiling if you want, but that'll definitely do that. So that's really what I find most effective for Lyme people, because I need you to take back control. I need you to bring back the control into your own being rather than giving it to me or to some other doctor or to some establishment or to some Facebook group. And when you start to do that, it starts to kick in. It might take a little bit of time. So let's see, home infrared saunas. There's a couple out there. Oops, I'm writing in the wrong place. Give me 1 sec. I want to make sure I get the right one for you. The one that I use the most and recommend the most is Sonaray. From Canada. There are also some other ones out there. That's the one I like the most. So the permethrin, there's a question about spray and recommending. I'm not an expert in lawn spray by any stretch of the imagination, so I'm not even going to touch that. But permethrin, once it dries on the cotton, is fine. It's not going to like re-wet and then kill everything. So thanks very much for that. I'm going to hop over to YouTube for a minute, and I think I'll make sure I didn't miss anything there. I know that there was one. People who are allergic, sneeze, cough, and have watery eyes when people are close by. Is it a simple Barton Lyme? I mean, if anything, that's probably, if it is related to Lyme or Bartonella, I think it's a downstream, downstream sort of connection, meaning I don't see Lyme and Bartonella directly doing that, but I have certainly seen a lot of people with mast cell activation syndrome subsequent to infections. Their immune system gets on hyper alert, and people you get sensitive to all kinds of stuff that make no sense, like somebody getting near you. So it certainly could be that component. Is it physiologically possible that one of these infections has really nuked your immune system and freaked it out for that? Possibly, but with treatment you would expect that to calm down. If it doesn't, it's probably more like modulating immune function and getting those mast cells calmed down. And thanks for Roberta for reminding me a lot about that. Ozone or HBOT for Lyme and co-infections. I like HBOT for detoxification. And, certainly recovery. It's great to get some oxygen in there, a different way than just breathing. It certainly is a great detoxifier of toxins, mold toxins, environmental toxins, some of the environmental chemicals. They actually have some really good SPECT scan studies on that and other brain studies, so that can be helpful. And that's, I think, really important. And toluene, I think, is one of the ones I've seen come out in the study of getting it out with hyperbarics. I don't remember 100%, so please don't quote me on that. So that's a really good one. And, let's see. Yeah, and ozone, I think we touched on before one of the other sessions, but, like Dr. Nathan says, really with mold, he doesn't see it helping. Lyme, maybe if you insufflate in the nose, the ear, or the rectum. Whether 10-pass or other versions of major autohemotherapy, IV ozone help. It's hard to say. I haven't seen it be a major game changer here. Viral illnesses and seasonal stuff, I've certainly seen it help a ton. It's not like, it's not one of these things where, it's not a frontline agent for me because there's not enough evidence that that's the be all end all. I have a fair number of people who try it out as an adjunct, and I think it's a reasonable thing to do there. So that sounds really great. And so somebody said I fall asleep listening to binaural beats, claim to boost your immune system each night. Any thoughts? I don't know if I'd have to see what the specific tract is, if there's some fancy thing going on. But binaural beats are basically, if you put 104 hertz over here and 100 over here, your brainstem will minus it to 4 and bring you to the 4 hertz brainwave state, going down towards delta. So kind of takes you from, beta to alpha to theta to delta. And if you're using a delta sleep system, if you're doing another one, I have gamma wave ones, I have alpha ones for focus. And so, I think they can be really helpful. And a lot of the tracks that I use with my patients and in some of our coaching programs, we actually I'll do a guided session where we do guided relaxation with a bit of hypnosis, with a bit of meditation. And oh, by the way, in the background, we've got binaural beats to help bring that down. So that makes it, really great that way. So let me see, I think we got a couple of quickies here. What ways can we actually seal the blood-brain barrier it's leaky other than working on the leakiness of the gut? I think the bottom line with the blood-brain barrier is you got to work on your nose and your mouth and your gut and your diet, which I know is kind of related to your gut. Your body's going to heal a lot of that stuff on its own. It's not like we need to go put some super glue on it. Systemic inflammation leads to break down the blood-brain barrier. So bringing down inflammation, so one of the things is so if it's a lot of it's gut related, but if it's not gut related, maybe bringing down some of that, inflammation can help with that as well too, can help with that too. Let's see. So, concerns about SPECT scans of radioactive agents. Yeah, certainly. Anytime we're getting any of these things, I have people do detox protocols beforehand, the day of, and then for 3 to 4 weeks afterwards. We have specific things for CT dyes and MRI dyes. SPECT scans are a little different. That's radioactive stuff. But again, our baseline detoxification support can do it. That's why I don't just send people randomly for scans. Your body's pretty good at getting rid of gadolinium from MRIs, but it still takes a while. So we usually help that as well. So again, optimize your detox protocol at least a week before these if you can, and then afterwards 3 or 4 weeks of next level detox before you go down to your regular may be helpful there. And certainly I do a lot of things like combining GI Detox Plus, the combination binder from Biocidin, with Toxin Pool from, I don't remember if they just changed the name of that one, but from Research Nutritionals, and then, Toxis Bind from Beyond Balance also are kind of the three big ones that go up front. And I use a lot of Cytodetox, which is fractured bentonite clay in a liposomal form. So along with, tons of other things, including like liposomal glutathione and such. So breathing and we're doing breathing meditation, slowing down the nervous system, lowering microglia activation in the moment. I don't know that anybody's actually studied microglial activation. We've certainly seen brain waves dramatically come down. Dr. Joe Dispenza is doing a ton of research on this kind of stuff. And I'm buddies with his kind of lead researcher, Hamel Patel, does amazing work out in California. So they're looking at those things. All of the indications would suggest that microglial inflammation in the brain probably is coming down as the nervous system is calming down. Whether it's directly bringing it down through a microglial activation state, I don't know. I don't know that we can really study that. I mean, you maybe get it stained in mice. So I'll see if I find out any more information about it. That's a pretty awesome question. But yeah, and what about lowering microglia activation over time? All these practices do better over time. And what's beautiful is not only do you get improved results over time, you get into this state more easily. And then it's like a lot of times, a lot of people with yoga and meditation, the big thing, part of the learning is that you want to take your practice off the mat. You really know you've gotten somewhere when you meditate, and then you start to see the changes in your everyday life. You may feel calmer, you may react less, you may have a Herxheimer reaction on your treatment protocol, but it's just not as bad. So that's really, you pick up momentum that way. Measuring microglial activation is mostly done, at least in research stuff, and by staining brains, which means, the animals are no longer with us. So nothing that we can really do a ton of that stuff. So, hey, and it's like, let's see, we say all I can think of as bringing memories is skiing in Utah. So I'm all about that. Hey, use whatever you've got. Use a lesson you learned that from a shitty day. Use something that you thought about. Use something that you want to do that you're dreaming of, but you don't even know how you're going to do. Just get those things to really keep you up there. Quicksilver has Ultra Binder. Certainly, they have a great product. I don't use a lot of Quicksilver. A lot of other people are using those things, and it's like people come to me have already tried a lot of these. So, but yeah, their Ultra Binder is very well known. Let's see. Why do I like Sonorate? Mostly because I've seen other wooden ones taken apart and burned, and they say they're pure and natural, but there's clearly chemicals being burnt off. Portable saunas, my biggest problem with portable saunas is you can't get your head in them. And every time I use them, I get out of them and my head hurts. And if I have to get in and go under, that's very uncomfortable. Therasage, I think I gave you guys a link a couple weeks ago, but Therasage, and I'll see if I can find it really quick. They have, from a portable perspective, they have a really nice one and they even have the red lights inside of them. My biggest problem again is great high quality product, but the problem is like I just want my whole body in it. So that's really where that comes from for me. Let me see if I can find that for you. I will get you the what's it called for Therasage in just a minute. How do I suggest that doctors and patients, I should say doctors, therapists, and psychiatrists, psychologists and psychiatrists approach patients? And is there a symptom they should look for to check for tick-borne or PANS, pandas, autoimmune encephalitis? I mean, the biggest thing is treat people like human beings. And if they're telling you they have something, they probably have something. And then find out what it is. And find out why they're complaining. Like if you're like completely like, oh my God, these people are like batshit crazy. Well, maybe they are, but why? Do they have a real thing? And anytime people, don't respond the way you expect, or you need an acute exorcism, or you have acute anything, like people don't get acute depression. They don't get acute, ADHD. Now, if you go back in the history and you saw it crept in, different story, but, it's like, it's one of those things where you just gotta, use common sense here and share love with them, and that doesn't also mean letting them play small. If it's a true psychiatric case, or if it's somebody who's really Munchausen's, like you're creating all their problems or somaticizing, that's a real problem. Help them. So I would just say that there are screening tools like Horowitz's MSIDS, 16-point MSID, or the MSIDS validated questionnaire. I have questionnaires I can share. A lot of the PANDAS stuff, if you look at the 2017 PANDAS Advisory Board recommendations, is a 3-part journal series. It's freely available. And also, if you go to like pandasnetwork.org or aspire.care, they have a lot of resources for teachers and psychiatrists and psychologists that can be utilized there. So those are, I think, really important things to look at. So thanks very much for the question. Does infrared sauna, including the head, present dangers at higher temps? These things really shouldn't be able to get to those temps. The biggest temp thing is we don't want your body internal core temperature to get 106 or higher for over 2 hours. So that's where they get that whole body hypothermia and stuff. We should be starting at the recommended doses. We should be doing 5 minutes a day, 2 days a week, then go to 3, get up to maybe daily or 4 days a week, then go to 10 minutes. Don't start at a half an hour, work your way up, and it shouldn't be super hot. You should be sweating, not, 3/4 dead, when you get through. And yeah, Sunlighten are definitely decent ones as well. They're kind of like number 2. If you talk to Rodney from, Sonoray, he'll say that they suck, but best I can tell that Sunlighten's right up there as well. I don't know. I haven't looked enough at that little pad thing they have that kind of covers you. Again, like your head sticking out, but I just like the whole body thing. It works better for my body, but go to a conference and try them out. I mean, they're at almost all the major like functional medicine conferences. ILADS has them. So some conference you can go to. I have somewhere in my house, or in storage somewhere, someone bought me like one of those seated ones, the portable ones. My biggest problem with the portable one, other than not getting my head in, is that the seat has metal legs, and I actually burnt myself on them before I remembered that, and I started putting like a towel on it. But I did, I just like the bougie one, to be honest with you, make it a little easier. So let's see, Lyme Barton. We'll grab this last one here. So Lyme, Bartonella, Babesia, and mold toxins, they also have the effect on, so the other people are coughing, sneezing, getting watery eyes when you're near. Yeah, I'm not sure that I know that. I have not heard from Lyme and Bartonella. I'd be interested to see what's going on with them. I have some people who off gas, kind of like your furniture off gases when you get some new furniture, when they start a treatment protocol, maybe for 2-3 weeks, some people even upwards of a couple months, where they have a really strong different odor. Potentially, if they're close to you, these people could be looking at that. Yeah, and I mean, I guess, Stephen, if you're looking at toluene or benzene off gassing from you, and you have a sensitive person around there, you could do that. So that's kind of interesting. I'll have to go pull that study. So thanks for sharing. I want to say thank you to all you guys for sticking around. I know we've been going way over. Glad we were able to get to everybody's questions. Keep an eye out on the website, or on the, I should say, the YouTube page. I'll get you guys out a nice guided session that is, tech flaw free, hopefully, and we will go from there. So really want to say thank you all for making this month great. Please feel free to share all this with family and friends. It's on YouTube, free for everybody to watch. Lots of love. Really want to say thank you again, and all the best to everyone on their healing journey, and just live with passion. Until next time, it's Dr. Tom. See you soon.